Hello, welcome back, everyone. So here we are in the month of Gemini, and as I mentioned in my previous video, that I'm going to change up the way that I do my readings. I took some time to think about how I want to approach do my readings for this year. And as some of you have known and have watched, I've done my videos based on the elemental influences of the astrological signs, so all the fire signs, air signs, earth and water signs. I've broken up and doing the readings for those signs. So fire signs would be Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, so on and so forth. But I found in the time that I was creating these videos, I didn't like the way that it was moving across for content on this particular portal on YouTube. So, because it just felt like, I'm cramming all this information for all the signs and then I have to timestamp it. And it's not so much the work, but I want it to be easy for people to get to their readings. So I've stripped everything down. I'm doing something very Gemini and Mercurial. Is I've really weighed out the best way to communicate and do my interpretations in a more direct fashion, and more easy for the mind and the ear and the heart to just take in. So I'm going back to my Decan readings, which I started about a year and a half ago, and I decided to take a break from doing those kinds of readings. So I'm going to do a little twist for the readings for the next few months, I should say. So we already ended our Gemini first Decan, which basically took us from May 20th, 21st to May 30th, 31st. Now, the reason why I mention those two dates is every few years, the dates of when these decans fallen change. So it could be either the 20th for 1 or 2 years, and then after the 2 years, it could be the 21st. So for that time frame of the first decan in Gemini, we had the Eight of Swords. So because again, like I mentioned, I haven't created content in a few weeks, I just want to stay in line with where we are decan wise for this time period. So I'm jumping right to the second decan, which here is represented by the Nine of Swords, Nine of Air, and I will discuss more or less for each decan. This is the second decan, which represents 10 to 20 degree placement of Gemini in relation to the tarot with the Nine of Swords or Nine of Air. And then I will end the end of the month with the third decan, which takes us more towards the tail end of the energy of Gemini as it starts getting a little bit closer to Cancer. So the second decan of Gemini, being from May 31st to the 1st, ending June 9th to the 10th. I will do a follow-up for that reading in 10 days for the third decan. I feel the second decan of Gemini, excuse me, the second decan of Gemini, or any of the second decans for each, excuse me, for each astrological sign, I feel strongly represents the characteristic of that sign. So our second decan of Aries, our second decan of Taurus. Usually the second decans represent the first week of each month of that sign. So I feel because of it being right placed in the center, it really solidifies the personality and the characteristics of that sign, Decan wise. Okay, now here for Gemini, okay, we're looking at the key words that we get for Gemini is partnership, communication, intellect, expressiveness of the mind, but also that plays also to how we communicate within ourselves. Okay, so we get the swords. Okay, as you see here, we have our Nine of Swords, and then here with the Gill Tarot, we have despair, keywords, and then with the Dreams of Gaia here, we have Nine of Air. Now I'm going to be working. For the most part, I'll be changing the decks that I'll be reading with for each of the Decan periods. So for Gemini, I'm going to focus with the Crow's Magic, which is this deck, Dreams of Gaia, and the Gill Tarot, because I feel it's good to look at different perspectives of the Nine of Swords, Nine of Air energy. And the Dreams of Gaia I like because I feel the Dreams of Gaia emphasizes, for this particular time period of Gemini, emphasizes spiritual communication, our intellect, how all the information that we're learning, that we're gaining, and that we're sharing with people, how that process is affecting us at a deeper level. So with the Nine of Swords, and I'm going to do a reading, I'm just going to quickly do a walkthrough of all of these cards. With the Nine of Swords, we see the keywords of crucified, torture, the Gill Tarot, despair. The sword suit is a suit that a lot of people in the tarot community, it's a love-hate relationship because it's a fact of the swords that we do at times get wrapped up in our thoughts. We have fear, and we all of that we hold in our mind. And the beauty with this Nine of Air from the Dreams of Gaia, look at the imagery. We see the expansion, the fingertips. Look at the fingertips here. They're a flame. It's how we can turn this energy of heaviness, of self-persecuting ourselves mentally, how we can use that energy, turn it around, and as dark and as powerful those negative energies are, we could turn them around and make them powerful and more in a self-empowering direction. And that's what we see here with the Nine of Air with the Dreams of Gaia. So when we're working with the Decan time period, the second Decan of Gemini, from May 31st to June 10th, we can use these 10 days to really fine-tune aspects of our mind in relation to the cards of the Minor Arcana associated with each of the decans. And that's why I wanted to change the way I do the readings for everyone, instead of it being loose and broad for the astrological signs and for the chart, for the 12 astrological placements. I want to focus more on the energy of how Gemini can work with us and also against us, and how we can use these challenges to take a different perspective, to take a different point of view. All right, so here, let's focus here on, I'm going to go here, despair. All right, so you can look at this card, take away the word despair. Okay, so what's the takeaway And you just look at this scene here. Okay, the power of words, the printed word, the spoken word. The energy of this card changes. It doesn't necessarily have to be despair. We see this cross here in the center. I'll move it up. Okay, which is highlighted. The other 6 swords that are surrounding this individual, they're dark, they're at an angle, but look at the sword here in the middle and the 3 that are up ahead. The beauty that I see in this card is the potential of moving past. We're going through these steps. And also look at the shadow. The shadow is of the sword, it's of our mind. And so what we're doing here with this card is we're moving away from it. We're leaving behind and creating an opening, a portal to get to this better place, to see a different perspective. And so when you put that word there, despair, it changes the whole mood. But if you close it, if you block it, you get a different perspective of this card. And you see a different meaning. Now with the Gill Tarot, there's some people who they don't like the keywords. Visually, the Gill Tarot is just beautiful for me. It's very simplistic, and the way the images are put together are very, very strong. And I can bypass this word because I don't necessarily have to use the keyword of despair in relation to this card. It's a guide, but it's something that I don't have to read literally. Okay, so let's go here with our 9 of Swords. Okay, this is the crow's magic. So what's interesting here is we see complete fencing in of these swords. Okay, showing, the self-persecution of the mind. We have the barbed wire there, self-imprisonment of the mind. And we have the symbol here for Gemini. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the 8, 9, and 10 of Swords, which represent the first, second, and third decans of Gemini, doesn't mean that Geminis are all like this, okay? And so it would be nice to see a really, a tarot deck with a different perspective on the swords based on the astrological signs, So we have here, we have 5 feathers, okay? And we're looking at the direction too. We have a lot of movement going on here. Swords going in opposite directions, which are causing conflict. And then we have the feathers here. The feather represents the spirit guide of the crow. The crow is the messenger. The crow is the animal spirit that sends us messages when we really need to pay attention to it. Every now and then you come across a very unique circumstance of seeing something very rare, something that doesn't happen. And that's a message. That experience is a message to you. So here we have the red feathers. Okay, red is energy. And the way I interpret the 9 of Swords here is how we can work with those forces. Okay, we have all this self-imprisonment that we see here with the 9 of Swords, but the red feathers here represent the energy, the movement that we can do with the message that we are experiencing. How can we turn this around? Okay, it's a very hard card to put into a reading and to, take away something lighthearted about it. But with these red feathers, the fiery energy, the movement of the mind, we can change this. As quick as we can put our minds in a negative position is as quick as we can actually turn that energy around and make it so it's more to our benefit, more for healing, more for letting go. Okay, the swords can destroy these feathers. The swords can disrupt with the message that we need to pay attention to. But if we can start removing all of this, start removing getting lost in the mind, listening to people that may not be sending a proper message to you or influencing you. Let's change that. Let's find something different. And that's where we have the dreams of Gaia. The tarot for me is seeing both sides of the things, both sides of a situation. Not the heaviness, even though the card may represent it, you have to take into account what is needed to change that. So here with the Nine of Air, and this card is beautiful. This is like the cosmic universal message as to what to do with this energy. Again, I mentioned about the fingertips being flamed. Gemini is ruled by the shoulders, arms, and hands. So it's how we use our, not so much our hands, but it's the way that we express ourselves. Okay, I mentioned in the previous video for the profile of Gemini. Geminis are very expressive with their hands. That's an extension of how they process their information and to get it across. Not all Geminis, but for the most part, if you watch them, they move. They like to be engaged with people. They may tap you on the shoulder when they're trying to get a point across. And so it's something that they're that Geminis are very impassioned about, is when they want to get something from their mind and get it really straight to that person's heart and mind. They use their hands. We also have here, I'll move here, we got the third eye that we see here. And there's a lot going on in this mind, but it's the way that we process this information, the opening. And I like here the heart, or I'm sorry, not the heart, the sword. Okay. And it's actually placed right in between the hands, but almost in the center of the heart. So it's literally the meeting, of the mind and the heart. But feeling confident and very strong in what you believe in and your perspective. It's very important. Okay. So, with that being said, I want to go ahead and just do a reading for this week for our second decan of Gemini, ending on June 10th. May 31st is the week for this decan. I'm going to shuffle cards. I'm going to pull a card for each of these decks, just one card, and this will be our representation for this week. Okay. And this is something you can do on a daily basis, because the decan is normally around 8 to 10 days, depending on the system. I like to stick to 10 days for the most part. But this is something that you could do every day. Look at the cards that come up in this reading. Feel free to pull out your own deck in relation to the cards that come up. Okay, so here we go. Right off the bat, got Page of Coins. Okay, I know you can't see this very well. So I got Page of Coins. Let's work with the Gill Tarot and we'll piece this together. Okay. Let's see what we get here with the Gill Tarot. So again, these cards that I'm pulling will be for each interpretation. Interesting. Completion. Okay, I'm going to move these cards down in a moment. Okay. And then let's see what we have with Dreams of Gaia. I actually like this combination of decks. They work very nicely. I feel the Gill Tarot gives the philosophical approach to the Decans. The Dreams of Gaia gives the spiritual, cosmic, universal message. And then the Crow's Magic gives more or less the conscious, what we're currently experiencing. Okay, this card just flipped out as I was shuffling. Wisdom. Let's see here. Let's do like this. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm really happy with these decks here. They really combine nicely. So for this Decan of this week, okay, these are the cards for in relation to the Nine of Swords. Let's put this here. Okay, let's put this here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to angle this up a little bit. Let's see alrighty. I'm not going to worry about straightening this because there we go. Alrighty. So with our Nine of Swords, with the Crow's Magic for this, the message for this week, for all the signs, but specifically for Gemini, for those who have the Sun, Moon, and Rising, pay attention to some of these messages and signs that may come up. So we have, with the Crow's Magic, we have the Page of Coins during this week, dealing with the Nine of Swords energy. But here we see expression, we see message. Coins is representing by all the earth signs here. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And we're seeing how this energy can be released, how we can utilize this Nine of Swords energy in a way that's more productive, but in a way that's being done in a communicative fashion. Okay, so everything that is being expressed, that is being perceived, what we need to start doing here is, let's start putting this to work. It's very important. Let's start showing people everything that's been in our minds, but releasing it, sharing it in a way that is more of inspiration. Okay, and that's your message, what you're doing with this energy. What outlet are you using it? This could be in the realm of material. This could be in the realm of maybe investments, but just be mindful during this month of Gemini. Think before, putting any investment into things. Okay, and this is again for this week if you have anything that you need to sign or make an investment in. Okay. I'm going to go here. I'm going to end here with the Dreams of Gaia. So with the Gill Tarot, we have completion, but it's the Four of Wands. Now the suits here represented in the Gill of Tarot. In the Gill Tarot, it's not how we normally see the wands or staffs. Okay, so we have the 4 bars here, and I like this because the four is showing the constant revolving of this energy. And it's squared, so we're seeing a foundation. 4 deals with stability throughout the suits based on their energy and their relationship to that suit. So here we're seeing a midway point, okay, because we are with the 4. So the 4, we're starting to see the result of our actions. So if this 9 of Swords energy, if we can release that kind of self-imprisonment of the mind, all that energy, like I mentioned earlier, can be put into action. This relates pretty strongly to that Page of Coins, okay? How are we being expressive? Let's start putting our thoughts into action. And let's start being, again, productive with this kind of energy, this kind of force, okay? And I won't really necessarily use the word completion, but what I would say here is we could start moving towards a midway point of getting things done. And being that we are in this second decan, this is a time to really maybe speed up the process, the direction of where we want to get to a certain end. So not necessarily completion, but we're moving in that direction. And keep in mind here again how this energy is being expressed, how it's being released, what resources are we working with so that we can make the investment into what we want to produce. Alrighty, this is a wonderful relationship for these cards here, for the 9 of Air. So wisdom. Okay, there is a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is what we're learning, what we're gaining, the assimilation of all that information. The wisdom is once we understand and we've attained that aha moment. That's where we are here. There is something to learn during this decan period. There's an awakening. There's a revelation that comes in by being open-minded, by having that perspective of seeing things both sides, asking questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. That's the only way as a student of life we learn more about ourselves. We learn more about ourselves through others. Weaknesses and strengths. So it's really important here with this card. This 9 of Air, as different as it is from these 2 other cards, it's the energy that we can use. It's the possibility, it's the potential. And by taking those chances, we have that opportunity for growth. It's mind expansion. And then we have the wisdom. We have the understanding. We get it. We have the enlightenment. Okay. Now, just to clarify, all of this energy is not going to happen in a week. Each decan, the readings that I will be doing, these are guides. These are insights that I pull from these cards. And you can apply it. This is a lifelong process that we go through. All of this. So for this week, let's change this energy around. Okay, these cards show the opposing energy if we start putting movement and move out of the restrictiveness of our minds, of our chained thoughts, being enslaved by the thoughts of what we see and hear that could be repressing for us. Okay, I'm not saying to shut off those kinds of forces, because it's something that we need to learn from. But if you're in an environment that's completely like this, and the perspective is like this, and there doesn't look to be like a good outlet, you will stay in that. These readings are to show your growth, your potential that you have to make these changes. Okay, so these cards, the Page of Coins, okay, we're going to go over that Nine of Swords. Wisdom is an extension for the Nine of Air. Okay, see how this energy changes? Completion. You start building a foundation. It's the midway point. It's the work that we need to do to overcome this. Okay. Again, I wouldn't use completion, even though it's on the card. It's more of the building, the moving towards. Okay. So these three cards will represent your influence, your guides for this Decan week, which ends June 10th. All right, so that's our second Decan reading for the month of Gemini. The next reading will take place June 11th, so stay tuned for that post unless I get delayed, so bear with me. But I want to make a commitment that to get these Decan readings out during the Decan period, so you have the energy and the guides to direct you at that time. Alrighty, so there you have it. I actually like the energy of and the flow of doing these kinds of readings. So go out there, Gemini, second Decan of Gemini this week, and make these changes. Change the way that you express yourself, if you're within yourself and to others. Remember this change here, okay, starts from within. That open portal, that open-mindedness. And then we start getting a freedom. We start getting a movement to release ourselves from anything that's holding us back. All right, that's the recap. I will see you all in about 10 more days. And any questions, you know what to do. Comments, feel free to leave them below. And I will catch you all next time. And until then, you take care.